Hey guys, so what you just saw me do was build up these two slabs we've got here. This was a beech log that I pulled out of a local firewood pile here. We've got a tree service down the road that dumps their offcut. And this was the biggest log they had. It was also a crotch. So it makes me think that this beech tree split off down near the base and then went up from there. So I just snagged this, cut it into 3-inch or 12-quarter pieces here. So the tallest piece here, 25 inches, 13 on the short side, and about 20 inches across. This one's a little smaller off this side, about 22 inches, still about the 20 inches across. You know, there is pith going through this, but that's part of why I cut it extra thick here at 3 inches. Don't know what I'm going to use it for yet, so I figured keep it thick, go from there. That new technique of using the laser level worked really well. Both these pieces came out much straighter than any of the previous ones. So to get us a starting point, 19, 18, 19, 25, 19, 18 down there. So we're starting high teens, low 20s. This will take a couple years to dry if I don't cut it up into smaller pieces once I figure out what I want to do with it. One of the pieces that's kind of exciting about it is you can see a completely different grain pattern and kind of coloration already in the oxidation here in the crotch areas. So worst case scenario, we can cut out the crotches and make something fun. But I'm sure some of the rest of this will end up good as well. The internet says beech is more unstable and likely to crack, but we'll see if some of this turns out good. So I figured I'd give you an update on the other boards we milled. We did this apple log back in April, so it's been about 3+ months since we've done this. You can see a ton of the oxidation, it really darkened up. If you watched the video we just did on the apple heart epoxy project, you know, that was a log from the same tree. You saw how that one, when it sanded, it really turned brown quick, as if the drying action really turned it a darker color. So it's interesting to see how dark this gets. You see with a lot of these, again, I didn't pay attention to the pith as I was really just practicing making my cuts and milling up the lumber. As expected, right? Big crack down the middle of this one. We've got cracks forming through all kind of the pith areas. This one in particular, you can see that real well right down the middle. And the boards are bowing. Almost every single one of them has a bit of a bow, kind of as you expect, right? As the board starts shrinking, it's going to go one way or the other. But that doesn't mean this is a waste, right? The intent here, right, is to get usable wood out of here that we can use for future projects. You know, this board right here, if I do, once it's dried, cut out the pith here, this right here is going to be a good 4-inch board that's 2 inches thick. That can become a project on its own, have some trim pieces come out of this one right next to it. Same with this big one. This piece right here is probably the best piece I've got right now. This is a full 8 inches wide, that's straight, and it's 18 inches long. This will become a good piece. This piece right here will be a good piece. And there are several others throughout here that'll be smaller but still usable pieces, but none of them are going to be really usable in the chunks they're in right now. In terms of how dry these are going, so these all started in the low 20s, and this one is down to 10%, 11%, 10. So these have almost gone down half of what they were. Now again, not necessarily the most accurate thing in the world, so the real 10% probably not accurate, but they've dropped at least half in their measurement of what they are. They do feel noticeably lighter too. Like all of these were significantly heavier to start. So I feel like these are making good progress. These maple logs are actually the first ones I milled up here in the backyard in the very first video on this channel. This one we actually did something different with too. We have the two on the left here I debarked and I've kept inside for the last 4 months. These two on the right I didn't debark and I left outside. Wanted to see how the difference in the indoor versus outdoor atmosphere would affect these. These ones started a little wetter than the apple. They started closer to 25%. And so this one is now at 14 and change, 12 and change, 13, 13. And the ones outside down to 10 and 11 for that one. This one is one that was cut very small, almost 1 inch, and it's down to 10 as well. So the ones outside actually did better than the ones inside over the last 4 months. Up here in the Pacific Northwest, it's been a hot month here this last month, but before this last month, it was warmer inside than outside. So it's interesting as to why that happened. Not really sure. These ones are not bowing near as bad as the apple logs, probably because these are soft maple. And so the force of the drying doesn't have nearly as much effect on it. But these are all usable in the shape that they're currently in. This one right here is the best of them. It's of course somewhere between 2 and 3 inches wide, but it is still flat and has potential for some unique figuring here in the middle with minimal cracks so far. Last but not least, we've got this big cookie we got from that same maple tree. You can see how this one is really darkened up a ton. It started also in the high 20s, 28, 24, 20. So that one has just started drying. Still hasn't made much progress. That one's gonna take a while. Overall, I've learned quite a bit from these first 3 millings. If even half this wood ends up as usable for projects, it's a big win in my book. It is firewood though, so you have to be realistic with your expectations of what you're gonna get out of the boards. The apple and maple wood I'm going to look at making into a few boxes next summer, and the rest I want to use as turning stock once I get into that here in the near future. If that beech and maple cookies stay together, maybe they could become small tabletops or part of a future epoxy project. Now that I have the basics down and knowing more about what to look for in the logs, I'm going to start watching the cut locations more, avoiding the pith and trying to set up the boards a little better for drying success. If you like this video, be sure and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next project. Thanks!